Chants fill the streets. What do we want? When do we want it? This isn't just another protest, it's a full-scale uprising, the kind Britain hasn't witnessed in decades. Public outrage has reached unprecedented levels, and Keir Starmer's credibility is disintegrating at an alarming rate. His approval ratings have collapsed post-election faster than any modern Prime Minister. Did he mislead the public with false promises? Many believe he deceived voters during his campaign, particularly on taxes, raising them in ways no one anticipated. Public trust has been shattered. Once seen as a leader of change, Starmer is now surrounded by controversy. His broken promises have sparked a nationwide crisis, forcing people to question his integrity and the future of his government. The carefully constructed image of stability is crumbling, and Starmer knows that if this movement continues to grow, it could cost him not just his reputation but his position in power. How did the nation reach this breaking point? How did Britain move from cautious optimism to mass protests? The answer lies in a group no one expected to lead the charge: pensioners. Imagine elderly citizens bundled in layers of clothing because they can't afford heating, marching through the streets with handmade signs. These are the same people who spent their lives working, paying taxes, and contributing to society, yet now they're fighting for something as basic as staying warm in their own homes. During his campaign, Starmer looked directly into the camera and promised pensioners that their winter fuel payments would be protected. "We will safeguard winter fuel payments," he declared. But just weeks after taking office, he shattered that promise, announcing brutal cuts that have left millions struggling. "I've worked my whole life, done everything right, and now I have to choose between heating my home and eating dinner," said Margaret Dawson, an 82-year-old protester in Manchester, her voice trembling with anger. The sense of betrayal has ignited a movement unlike anything seen before. From Manchester to Durham, from London to the most rural villages, pensioners who never thought they'd take part in demonstrations are now leading the fight. Their demand for justice grows louder every day, and they're not alone. Students have joined the protests, furious over Starmer's broken promises on tuition fees. Across university campuses, demonstrations are intensifying. Meanwhile, working-class families are sinking deeper into financial despair due to his austerity measures. Universal credit has been slashed, benefits have been cut, and food bank usage has reached record highs. Perhaps the most devastating consequence of Starmer's economic failures is the return of mass unemployment. Major corporations, wary of economic instability, have begun mass layoffs. In Birmingham alone, more than 20,000 jobs disappeared in a single month. The tech industry, once thriving, is now in crisis, leaving thousands of graduates burdened with debt and no job prospects. This movement is no longer just about pensioners and students. The anger has spread to workers, small business owners, and entire families. Protests are escalating, and now trade unions, the backbone of Labour's traditional support, have declared war on Starmer's government. His administration has introduced harsh anti-union laws designed to suppress workers' rights, but instead of weakening the movement, these policies have only fueled resistance. The National Union of Rail, Maritime, and Transport Workers, RMT, was the first to act, bringing London's train services to a halt as thousands of railway workers walked off the job. Rather than turning against them, frustrated commuters joined the protests. The message was clear: Starmer had brought this on himself. Then came the teachers. Across the country, thousands of educators abandoned their classrooms, demanding fair wages and better funding for schools. Parents, many struggling with the rising cost of living, stood in solidarity with them. Next, NHS workers joined the fight. Doctors, nurses, and paramedics, the same people who held Britain together during the pandemic, took to the streets in mass demonstrations. Their message was simple yet heartbreaking: we can't afford to live on these wages anymore. This isn't just dissatisfaction, it's a full-scale rebellion against a government that promised stability but has delivered crisis after crisis. As protests rage on, the question remains: will Starmer listen, or will he continue down a path that could mark the end of his leadership? The answer will determine Britain's future. But one thing is certain: this movement is far from over. Every day, more people take to the streets, and the demand for justice grows stronger. What started as frustration has become a revolution, and Britain is watching as history unfolds. Thanks for watching. For more political updates, make sure to like and subscribe. Britain Exposed will keep bringing you the real stories the mainstream media won't.